gemeinsam
interpretados. Y le voy a dar la palabra ahora a Ana Van Lanker, que va a explicar por qué para la familia progresista y solidaria es tan importante este premio. Gracias, Marian. Estimados colegas condecorados, estimados compañeros e invitados. Estoy aquí sentada enfrente de ustedes, no estoy de pie para celebrar la ceremonia de entrega del premio de la Rosa de Plata. Estamos hablando de el trabajo duro de esta ceremonia y estamos hablando
dumme Maria la
Moderatrice, antes
a des fonds
de
justicia social en todo el mundo, precisamente para rendir homenaje a la sociedad civil, a los sindicatos, a los activistas y a los movimientos que muy a menudo pasan desapercibidos en tiempos de
guerre.
et même plus que jamais d'être dass die Antwort qu'il va falloir finden
durable. Les dirigeantes politiques de WPL sont tout à fait à la hauteur de ces attentes. Il s'agit de dirigeantes politiques venues du monde entier qui prouvent à quel point les femmes ont un rôle à jouer dès lors qu'il s'agit de construire la paix et de résoudre les conflits. La cofondatrice de WPL, Mme Hélène Clark, qui malheureusement n'est pas présente aujourd'hui, a montré à quel point un leadership progressiste peut permettre de faire avancer la justice sociale. Des dirigeantes, il nous en faut afin de trouver des solutions pacifiques et afin de relever les défis à venir. Rien de moins ne fera l'affaire. Je vous propose que nous envoyions la vidéo.
Build a basis, a platform for those women, no matter from which country, no matter from which political affiliation they come, to work together.
The president and founder of WPL, Sylvana Kochmerin, talks about their mission and their achievement throughout the years.
WPL, the short for Women Political Leaders, is the global network of women who are in political office. So it's worldwide women who are members of parliament or ministers, but also prime ministers, presidents, and if we can get hold of them, also women mayors or also on the subnational level of politics.
Since 2013, WPL has set up the largest global network of women politicians in the world. Around 10,000 women elected and appointed at the national and international level.
WPL started in 2013 with a big convening in the European Parliament, and there were from more than 100 countries women politicians coming, and there was a very, very clear ambition and motivation and also identified need for convenings like this and for working together. So it's almost 10 years.
On the 13th of February 2022, they launched with an open letter the initiative WPL for Peace. The letter has now more than 500 signatures, among which Nobel laureates, presidents and prime ministers, members of parliaments and governments.
We put together an open letter to Presidents Biden and Putin, and we invited them to go to Reykjavik to meet where Ronald Reagan and Gorbachev, like then presidents of the United States and president of the Soviet Union, met to begin the end of the Cold War, where they talked nuclear disarmament, which then led to the end of the Cold War. And this open letter we shared with the network. Presidents, prime ministers, ministers, parliamentarians, also women Nobel Peace Laureates signed this letter. We received enormous support and a lot of replies and conversations with the signatories.
This initiative emphasizes the role of women as positive agents in conflict resolution, spreads awareness of the vital role women's leadership plays in the sustainability of any peace achieved, and advocates for a more inclusive new world security agenda.
Thank you. I do hope function, maybe not, but I will speak very loud so you can hear me. Of course, for me, it's in a way, it's astonishing that WPL as an initiative has a birthplace here in the European Parliament. Yeah. It's for the translation. Oh yes, so we need to. It works, I guess. Yeah. Okay. If you can hear me. So as a 9-year-old, I think it's good for WPL and of course European Parliament to check the result, and of course we can also be very proud of it. So it's my special pleasure and I would like to thank for this opportunity to invite on stage VPL President, Madam Silvana Koch-Merin, and WPL Board Representative, Dr. Obiagel Katrin Ezek-Vesili. Please, one applause. Welcome.
Thank you very much.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, thank you so very much for this kind introduction, and thank you Solidar, thank you S&D Group. It's a real pleasure, a real honor to be here and to receive this recognition and award. Indeed, in February, 13th of February, we had hope that there would be possibility to find diplomatic solutions before this war started. We all know now, many months later, things are very different. What remains, however, as our call, and this is the initiative ongoing, is the need for more women at the table, no matter where peace is needed and no matter where peace is negotiated. UN Women has the data, others have the data. It's more likely that peace negotiations come to successful endings, that the negotiated peace lasts longer, but despite all this, less than 10% of those around the negotiation tables are women. And we all know this. In the European Parliament, it's not as bad, but the percentage of women in politics is very, very small. 93% of the presidents and prime ministers of the world are men, and still about 3/4 of parliamentarians are men. So there is a lot of room for improvement, to say this in a positive way. Now, WPL is non-partisan. I myself also missed the European Parliament in certain ways. I was member of parliament here, not in the S&D Group, but I believe that it's... But I have a small story to say, because when I was not perfect in a different political group, my grandmother, who was always a huge supporter of everything I did, even though she was a burning socialist. As a teenager, as a young woman, she was with the Arbeiterjugend, that's what, and was demonstrating in Germany. And at age 87, we finally convinced her to become a member of her beloved party. She always said, politics is not for women like me. I don't have education, I don't really know. And then, 87, she then she then became a member and was very, very proud. So I wanted to thank the team of WPL that is here. Without all of you, nothing of this would be possible. So thank you very, very much. And I really hope that together, across parties, across countries, we can work on this joint agenda of getting more women at the tables. And with this, may I hand over to Dr. Obi, who is an esteemed and wonderful member of the board and a true and inspiring leader, and who I have such an honor to work with. Please.
Thank you so much, Silvana, and congratulations. It's taken it's taken your amazing leadership for us to get this award together with very interesting women who are irrepressible around the world. And it's been an intergenerational thing because the women have to work together regardless of what age group they belong to. It is important, therefore, that I should read a statement that you would have heard from the chair of our board, former New Zealand Prime Minister, Mrs. Clark, Helen Clark. And so I am very pleased and honored by the opportunity to address you at this important event as a board member of Women's Political Leadership Initiative. We are humbled to have been considered for this year's thematic award of the Silver Rose for Peace and Common Security. Women Political Leaders was created to increase the role and the impact of women in political leadership for the global better. It was conceived as a community and alliance among women in political office in government, parliament, regional, and local authorities, irrespective of party background, to provide communication, connection, and community. Common security is a prerequisite for a long-lasting and durable peace, and women participation is crucial to achieving this. It is fitting that we gather in 2022 to celebrate the 22nd birthday of Solidar as it shares its birth with the landmark UN Resolution 1325, signed on the 31st of October 2000. It is a short but to the point document that clearly outlines what is needed in conflict resolution and prevention. A seat at the table on equal terms and full involvement in relevant processes and mainstreaming of gender perspective in all processes, based on the understanding of the specific impact that women suffer in situations of conflict. The war in Ukraine is no exception to this. Of the millions already fleeing the country, a vast majority are women and children. Reports of sexual violence and exploitation from the war and occupied territories, as well as from refugees in Europe and elsewhere, are gruesome reminders of existing tactics of war and specific vulnerability of migrant women and children. Ladies and gentlemen, as the war in Ukraine continues, the threat to world peace and the risk of a new world war with nuclear weapons remains quite high. A dialogue between the leading world powers is central to achieving de-escalation and eventual peace. 2 days after the invasion, women political leaders therefore took the initiative for a peace dialogue with everyone at the table, to be hosted by Iceland, the Icelandic Prime Minister Catherine Jacobs-Dottir, much like in 1986, as my dear friend Silvana earlier said, when talks in Iceland marked the beginning of the end of the Cold War. A similar peace process is needed now. Ladies and gentlemen, until today, the initiative has received the backing of more than 500 signatories, 27 current or former women presidents and prime ministers, 7 Nobel laureates, and more than 60 women political leaders worldwide. The voice of women will be crucial to achieving a just and sustainable peace in Ukraine and elsewhere. I am therefore very pleased that this is recognized through this year's thematic Silver Rose Award for Peace and Common Security, and honored to stand here with Silvana on behalf of the women political leaders for the work that we do to advance women participation in all things that matter to society and at all levels, as well as initiators for dialogue and development being recognized today. I thank you very much, and I wish you a wonderful evening. There is absolutely no doubt that our new multilateral order will be better defined and expressed in the full and inclusive participation of women, both great and small, in all regions of the world. I thank you.
Thank you. Now it's time to deliver. Family. Thank you once again.
I will take the second mic if you'll just leave it here. Yeah, this is very unreliable. Well, let's see if this microphone is reliable. No, it's not. Okay, so I will just shout congratulations again to the winners, and thanks for all your positive work, and for all the women in the room. Do keep supporting each other because it's very, very important. Okay, so now to the second award of the night, the Lifetime Achievement Award. Now, this year's Lifetime Achievement Award goes to Lee Cheuk-Yan, the former Secretary General of the disbanded Hong Kong Confederation of Trade Unions and former chairman of the Hong Kong Alliance in support of patriotic democratic movement in China. Now, throughout his life, Lee Cheuk-Yan has dedicated himself to working to protect workers' rights at a huge personal cost. Not only has he been prosecuted multiple times, he is currently serving a 20-month prison sentence in Hong Kong. Please take a look at this video behind me.
Lee Cheuk-Yan is the most iconic figure of the independent labor movement in Hong Kong. He dedicated most of his life to the labor and democratic movement in Hong Kong.
I'm Lee Cheuk-Yan. You can all call me Yan. I think Yan is quite a Swedish name, right? So it's easier. Yeah, and actually Yan in Chinese means a very good word. It means human.
Lee was the former General Secretary of the Hong Kong Confederation of Trade Unions and former chairman of the Hong Kong Alliance in support of patriotic democratic movements of China. After graduating from university in 1978, Lee gave up a career in engineering and devoted himself to serving the working people. Later, he joined the Hong Kong Christian Industrial Committee, where he sought compensation for back wages and severance pay for manufacturing workers. Lee was determined to make a change. Many major labor protests over the past 3 decades, such as the 2007 Barbender strike and the 2013 dock workers strike, were all launched with the support of Lee and the Confederation. When the student movement broke out in Beijing in 1989, Lee was responsible for bringing Hong Kong people's donations to Beijing and witnessed the Tiananmen Square massacre with his own eyes. Ever since his return to Hong Kong, he took on the mission of telling the world the truth about June 4th.
If the Chinese government asks the Japanese government to learn from history, they themselves should also learn from history, especially the history of June 4th. But what we see is the regime try to suppress any remembrance of June 4th or any open mourning activity in China. And so we are asking for that the Chinese government should themselves also learn from history.
Under his leadership, the independent trade unions in Hong Kong became the pillar of the democratic movement and always stood firm with the people in the fight for democracy in opposing Article 23 of the Basic Law, the Umbrella Movement, and the Anti-Extradition Law Amendment Bill movement. Over the past 40 years, Lee Chia-kian has never ceased fighting for social justice. Even though it brought him imprisonment, he has no complaints, no regrets.
Lee Cheuk-yang is a giant amongst our global union family. The ITUC stands fully in support of his lifelong commitment to the fight for democracy, for human and labour rights. These rights have not only been denied to the Hong Kong Council of Trade Unions trying to organise, indeed as the UN Charter of Human Rights allows, I can think of no one more deserving of the Silver Rose Award than our brother Lee.
Okay, brilliant. Okay, well, to make the presentation... Okay, to make the presentation of the award, please give a warm applause to MEP Massimiliano Smerio.
So, thank you, Solidar, thank you for this opportunity and for the experience. It's an honor for me to present this award. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for the floor. On behalf of the jury of the Silver Rose Award, tonight we confirm the award for the Lifetime Achievement section to Lee Cheuk-yang, former General Secretary of the now dissolved Hong Kong Confederation of Trade Unions. Here with us to collect this award and to honor Lee's work and commitment is Alex Tang, Vice Chair of the now dissolved Hong Kong Confederation of Trade Unions. I would like to invite Alex Tang here to receive the diploma.
Thank you very much. I don't know the process. Should I give the speech first? for the speech first? Or? Okay. Okay. Distinguished guests and ladies and gentlemen, my name is Alex. I was the vice chairperson of the Hong Kong Confederation of Trade Unions before it is disbandment last year. And let me start by giving my thanks to Solidar and the S&D groups for the rewarding for brother Li Chuk-yan for his lifetime achievements. The solidarity you have extends through this award to this comrade in the independent labor movement in Hong Kong is heartening and much needed. In 2021, unfortunately, the HKCTU was forced to make a very difficult decision of self-disbandment, while brother Li Chuk-yan was sentenced to jail, and the China government adopted the PRC national security law in Hong Kong a year ago. Since then, over 100 civil society organizations and trade unions has been pressured to disband, which is including the information technology unions, which is I was in the chair. Under the new normal of the endangering national security, the trade unionists in Hong Kong cannot assume they enjoy the same right to freely speak, organize activities, and associate that what they did in the past. Although Lee could not be here with us tonight, the award is an important recognition of his contributions to the labor and democratic movement of Hong Kong. As his comrade, I feel extremely honored to receive this award for him on the stage. Looking back at those days, Lee often recall how much he was educated by learning from the poor, and that he would never give up hopes as long as the oppressed spoke up to defend their dignity. There's a little bit history background in here. In the 1990s, Lee was lead more than 20 independent trade unions to form the HKCTU, which at its peak represented more than 19,000 members from different industries, which is including mine. The HKCTU was founded on solidarity, justice, rights, and democracy. And we believe that with our justice system and political democracy, job security could not be guaranteed. And the founding of the HKCTU also opened a new pages in the history of the trade union movement in Hong Kong in the 90s as well. It ended the era of domination by politically affiliated trade union between the China and the Taiwan since the 50s. And also, Lee is the founder of the Labour Party in Hong Kong, and he also served as a lawmaker for 21 years. He moved to the collective bargaining legislation before the handover of Hong Kong's sovereignty to China in June 1997, but unfortunately, only for a few weeks later, that was be appealed later by the China-appointed Provisional Legislative Councils. In most of the mass-scale rally demanding the universal suffrage and direct elections, you can find Lee carrying a banner in front to lead the crowd and chanting the slogans. And he stood in solidarity with the jailed trade unionists in Korea, and also the activists in mainland China as well. Lee regarded it his lifelong mission to tell the truth and speak for democracy in China, because he strongly believed that if there is no democracy in China, there will not be democracy in Hong Kong. And I think the video you just saw has proven it. He's right about that. And since the April of in 2021, Lee has served over 20 months in prison, and he's still in the prison right now as we're speaking, just for participating in unauthorized assembly in 2019 and 2020. And he will be tried on the charge inciting subversion of state power as a chairperson of the Hong Kong Alliance in support of the political and democratic movements of China, which is leading the mass memorial of the people who sacrificed in the pro-democracy movement in China back in 1989, which is, I was 1 year old at the moment. By lighting the candle years after years on the 4th of June in Hong Kong. But overnight, it was a separatist organization endangering the national security and dismantled it. For Lee, this is the struggle of man against power, the struggle of memory against forgetting, as he refers to the Czech writer Milan. Sorry, I don't know how to spell the name. In his piece to the court. And thank yous again for giving the Lifetime Achievement Award to Lee. By doing so, we are preserving the memories of his struggling, which were also the memories of the birth, the growth, and the substantive setback of the independent labor movement in Hong Kong, the memories of what people in Hong Kong has aspired and stood up for. But we know that it is not the end yet. Finally, allow me to end by quoting these meditations in court. Despite the setbacks, we are steadfast in our belief that the universal value of freedoms, the rules of law, human rights, and democracy that we have been struggling for will one day take root in Hong Kong and China. And on that day, we will be able to console the souls who came before us. Thank you.
Congratulations again. Well, that now brings the Silver Rose Awards 2022 to a close. Congratulations to all the winners. And thank you also to all the nominees, the MEPs and civil society who are joining us today. And thanks also to Solidar for the organisation. Don't forget that there will be a reception at the conclusion of the ceremony at Yan 3Q Restaurant. But for the final words, please welcome the European Parliament Vice President and Executive Vice President of PES, Katerina Barley. Welcome, and Michael Lay, the Secretary General of Solidar, to the stage.
Let's try this one. No, might have that one.
It's a microphone.
Is that better? Yes. So, hi. I'll speak and you listen. It's Women's Day today. Well, I've got a speech, and I don't know if you do too. And we are the only ones to keep them from partying. Okay. Maybe you can do the sign language translation meanwhile. Okay, so So, dear awardees, nominees and guests, I'm very honored to be able to do the closing speech, although doing the closing speech, of course, is always the saddest part of a ceremony, of this year's Silver Rose ceremony. It's really a pleasure to see so many of you, and if I may say so, without excluding anyone, so many young people and so many women. It's really a pleasure because you inspire all of us and you give us hope every day. And you are the positive change that the world needs. And the Silver Rose Award is the time and place to honor all of you. Since 2000, the Silver Rose Awards have celebrated the best of our communities, what we have to offer, as well as some of the most important pillars of healthy and vibrant societies. Civil society organizations, trade unions, and individuals fighting for a better world for all of us. Today again, we have awarded some of those who strive to make a difference in the world. They do so often very selflessly and with great personal risk. We honor those who fight for a more united, just, and sustainable future. It's not very practical to have this with a microphone in your hand. And today's recipients stand in line with great recipients in recent years. In 2007, the Silver Rose Award has been given to human rights defenders such as Aminatou Haidar. In 2015, the award praised journalists who had shed light on the working conditions of the working classes, such as Gunther Wallraff. And in 2019, we celebrated the important work of the organization Mujeres Supervivientes de Violencia de Género in Spain. These strong women defend victims and survivors of gender-based violence. So the history of the Silver Rose Award speaks for itself. And today, with our outstanding recipients, we are continuing this tradition. Lee Chuk-yan has spent his life advancing and protecting workers' rights, fighting against an ever more powerful opponent. He put his life at risk to fight for democracy, social justice, and the right to demonstrate. And women political leaders and their peace campaign put an emphasis on the often undervalued and missing role of women in conflict resolution, maintaining peace and setting the security agenda. And I had the honor to be shadow rapporteur into reports on feminist foreign policy. So there is still a lot more work to do, I can say, from this experience. But I also, of course, want to mention the many candidates for the awards who have bravely carried the fight for a better world. You are an inspiration. This year's edition of the Silver Rose Award pays tribute to those who work for peace, dialogue, and our common security. It is a subject that could not be more timely. The current Russian war of aggression against Ukraine, the spread of autocratic regimes around the world, and the rise of the extreme right in Europe and elsewhere are extremely worrying. They threaten to undermine the achievements we have collectively made in the last 70 years, and may I say also here, especially women's rights. It includes the European project, which rose from the ashes of war to offer all European citizens a brighter and more secure future. But the European Union is much more than a project and much more than an economic project. It is built for peace and prosperity, for democracy based on solidarity and cooperation, for social inclusion and achievement. It is also built by civil society workers and human rights defenders. It is to the people and so to you that the EU truly belongs. This, the European Parliament, is also your house. Those who know me know that the protection of human rights, fundamental rights, and especially the rule of law is at the heart of my political work. These core democratic values that are under pressure also within our European Union, and that we, socialists and democrats in the European Parliament, fight for and will always protect and promote. And civil society is an absolutely crucial and essential ally in protecting and promoting our shared values. It's essential for a more inclusive and open democracy. Human rights defenders Women's rights organizations, as well as media organizations and journalists, are essential elements of our society and play an active and crucial role in any pluralist democracy. And that's the last page. Don't worry, I should have learned it by heart. So, dear friends, democracy and human rights are at the basis of a healthy society. At the PES, our work focuses on using our network to defend citizens against authoritarian and autocratic regimes while fostering progressive policies in Europe and beyond. As our new president, Stefan Löfven, pointed out, we live in troubled times with a very serious security situation, the threat of climate change, growing divisions, high energy prices, and a growing threat to democracy. In his view, what is the answer to these challenges? The social democratic ideas of equality, solidarity, and community. Or, as he put it, no one is strong on their own. I couldn't agree more. And together, with your help, I am convinced that we can work towards a better world for everyone. So thank you again very much, and congratulations.
Thank you so much, Katarina, for these wonderful words. Thank you. Good. Thank you. So, we have reached the end of the program, and it's my pleasure to then invite all of you to the reception that's taking place at it seems like almost a thought, right? That we're meeting now in Jan for the drinks. So let's do this in commemoration of these honorable laureates of today, Women Political Leadership and Lee Chak-jan, and take this opportunity to continue this conversation of how we can work together and build this strong alliance to foster the values that we hold dear: freedom, justice, sustainability, and social rights. It is also my pleasure. This is my first Silver Rose in person. It feels almost unreal to stand in front of so many people that are real and sit on a chair, and they, you can relate to you and you can hear you, and so it's really wonderful. And let's continue in this friendly, collective way. One of the benefits of meeting together is that you can also drink together and eat together. So that's what we're going to do now. There is, I'm told, and before I should also thank my colleagues who have been part of the organizing team from Solidar. Georgia, you have been a spider here. Thank you so much. You see. I want to thank also the video maker, Humam, for these wonderful videos. Thank you so much for the really wonderful work. It's been a pleasure working with you. Thank you to our fellow MPs from the Social Democratic family to accompany us in this event, both through the process of identifying the winners of this year's Silver Rose Award and be with us today. Thank you to the translators of this event. Thank you for coming in this late and working with us in this evening. Yes, and my Miriam, of course, always an energetic and inspiring speaker and host. Thank you so much. And I'm sure I forgot someone, and then I apologize. But without no one then more mentioned, no one forgotten, now it's time to continue our socializing. So is it you, Georgia, who will carry the banner of towards Jan? Will be more of you people. So we'll go together as a collective. We can pretend it's a march if you want, but we'll go together. Thank you so much for this hour.